China just solved the only problem Americans had with electric cars. 5 minutes. That is all it takes now. BYD's Super E platform delivers 400 kilometers of range in just 5 minutes at 1,000 kilowatts of charging power. And CATL, the company that already supplies batteries to Tesla, BMW, and Volkswagen, introduced a battery that goes from 10% to nearly full in under 7 minutes. Almost as fast as filling up a gasoline car. The entire Western argument against EVs, charging takes too long, just collapsed. But here is what makes this more than just a headline. For 15 years, that argument was real. It was legitimate. It was the one thing even electric car fans couldn't argue away. You pull into a Tesla supercharger and you wait. 20 minutes if you're lucky, 40 if the charger is congested, or cold, or broken, which happens more often than anyone admits. In February 2025, a fight broke out between drivers waiting for Tesla superchargers in the United States. It went viral. Not because it was shocking, but because every EV owner understood exactly how it happened. Tesla's newest charger tops out at 500 kilowatts. The fastest charger available to American drivers right now caps at 350. China is at 1,000. The gap isn't closing, it's already gone. And the charging problem is just the beginning of what China built. For years, the conversation about electric cars in the West has circled around the same objection. Not range, not price, charging time. You could deal with range anxiety by planning ahead. You could deal with price as battery costs came down. But the charging problem felt different. It felt fundamental. China decided to engineer that problem out of existence instead of managing it. On March 17, 2025, BYD unveiled what it called the Super E platform. The numbers attached to it are still difficult to absorb even now. The system runs on a 1,000-volt architecture. For context, most electric vehicles today run on 400 volts. The best ones, including Porsche and Hyundai's premium models, run on 800 volts. BYD went to 1,000. Paired with a 1,000 amp current, the platform delivers a peak charging power of exactly 1,000 kilowatts, 1 full megawatt. At that speed, the car adds 2 kilometers of range every single second. In the time it takes you to read this sentence out loud, a car on BYD's system has added enough range to drive across a city. A full charge from empty takes 6 minutes. The 5 to 50% window, the range most people actually use in daily driving, takes 3 minutes and 33 seconds. BYD's own statement at the launch said exactly what this means. In the past, refueling a gasoline car took 5 to 8 minutes. Now, for the same range, an electric car also takes 5 to 8 minutes. The gap is not closing, it's closed. Here is the part that sounds impossible. Pushing 1,000 kilowatts into a battery should destroy it. The heat generated by that much current flowing through a battery at that speed is an engineering problem that has stopped every other manufacturer from even attempting this in a mass-produced vehicle. Fast charging degrades batteries. It generates heat that breaks down the chemistry inside the cells over hundreds of cycles. That is why most manufacturers cap their charging speeds aggressively. They are not being cautious about your time, they are being cautious about your battery's survival. BYD solved this with a combination of 3 things working together. First, the voltage. By pushing the voltage higher instead of just the current, BYD reduces the heat generated per unit of power delivered. The same way high-voltage power lines lose less energy over distance than low-voltage ones. Second, a completely redesigned battery they call the flash charging battery, the latest evolution of their blade cell, built specifically to handle 10C charge rates without thermal runaway. Third, a new silicon carbide power chip that manages the entire flow of electricity through the system with precision that previous chips couldn't achieve at this speed. The result is a battery that can sustain 600 kilowatts of charging power even at 90% capacity, something no other production vehicle on Earth can do. BYD didn't just build a fast charger, they rebuilt the entire electrical system from the cell chemistry upward to make the fast charger possible. The Super E platform isn't only about charging. When BYD redesigned everything to handle 1,000 volts, they also unlocked performance numbers that would embarrass dedicated sports car brands. The platform introduces the world's first mass-produced electric motor spinning at 30,000 RPM, a number that belongs in jet turbine territory, not a family sedan. At the rear, that motor delivers 580 kilowatts, 778 horsepower from a single unit. Combined with a front motor, the Hanel sedan produces over 1,100 horsepower total, hits 100 kilometers per hour in 2.7 seconds, and reaches a top speed of 305 kilometers per hour. The Tang-L SUV, a full-size family vehicle, does the same sprint in 3.6 seconds. These are not concept cars. They are in production in China right now. Both start at around $37,000. For that money in America, you get a mid-range Tesla Model 3 that charges at a third of the speed and produces half the horsepower. What makes China's position so dominant right now is that BYD is not an isolated story. It is the leading edge of an entire industry moving in the same direction at the same time. Xiaomi, a phone company that started making cars in 2021, just launched the YU7 SUV and received 200,000 orders in 3 minutes. The Xiaomi SU7 Ultra lapped the Nürburgring faster than a Porsche Taycan Turbo GT. Ferrari reportedly purchased one for benchmarking as they prepare their first electric car. NIO offers a battery swap system where you pull into a station and have a fully charged battery installed in 5 minutes without ever plugging in. Huawei's automotive division is producing vehicles with autonomous driving systems that see 200 meters ahead in complete darkness. Every one of these companies is competing against each other inside China, which means the technology improves every quarter. The competition that Western automakers face is not one Chinese company. It is an entire ecosystem of companies sharpening each other constantly. Behind every electric car is a battery, and behind most of the world's EV batteries is China. As of 2025, Chinese companies control 70% of the global EV battery market. CATL alone holds 39%, more than all European and American battery makers combined. CATL supplies batteries to Tesla, BMW, Mercedes-Benz, and Volkswagen. The companies America is counting on to compete with China are buying their batteries from China. BYD supplies batteries to Stellantis in Europe. The entire global EV industry is running on Chinese chemistry, Chinese manufacturing, and Chinese supply chains. When BYD develops a new battery that charges in 6 minutes, they are not just upgrading their own cars. They are sitting at the top of a supply chain that feeds the entire industry. Western automakers are not behind on one technology. They are dependent on the country that is ahead of them. In 2025, Tesla sold 1.64 million electric vehicles globally, a decline of 9% from the year before. BYD sold 2.25 million battery electric vehicles, a 28% increase. BYD's total revenue for 2024 was $170 billion, Tesla's was $155.5 billion. The company that was supposed to define the electric future of transportation is now smaller, slower, and charging at half the speed of its main competitor. In the United States, the fastest publicly available charger delivers 350 kilowatts. BYD's system runs at 1,000. American drivers are being protected from Chinese cars by a wall of tariffs, not because the cars are unsafe or inferior, but because without that wall, the price and technology gap would be impossible to ignore. That protection is not a solution. It is a delay. The rest of the world is not behind a tariff wall, and Chinese EVs are arriving in Europe, Southeast Asia, Australia, and Latin America with the full performance advantage intact. For 15 years, the charging problem was the wall that kept millions of people from switching to electric cars. It was a real problem, not a made-up one. It took time, it was inconvenient, and it made electric cars feel like a compromise rather than an upgrade. China did not accept that compromise. They went back to the battery chemistry, redesigned the voltage architecture, built a new motor, developed a new chip, and created an entirely new charging standard, all to make the waiting disappear. The wall is gone, not being worked on. Gone. The last argument against electric cars was solved by a company that most Americans have never been allowed to buy a car from. That is where the industry stands in 2026. If you made it this far, you now understand why the electric car conversation in the West is about to get a lot more uncomfortable. Hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications because we are tracking every step of this story as it develops. Now I want to hear from you. If BYD's 5-minute charging ever came to your country with their cars, would you switch from whatever you drive now? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one.